Hi everybody, it's Win, and welcome to another video by the Entropy System. I heard everybody's feedback that our colorful light display thing was distracting, so I lowered our camera angle, but that also means that it will be much harder to keep Leia out of the frame. As if on cue. I hope she's less distracting than the lights. Another Sanders Sides video has been posted, which means that my inbox is filled yet again with people asking if I think that Sanders Sides is a good representation of D.I.D. Considering the content of the most recent episode and how it tackles a pretty heavy mental health issue, I decided that now had to be as good a time as any to take on this topic. But before I answer those questions, for those of you who are not familiar with Sanders Sides, let's start from the beginning. Sanders Sides is a frankly brilliant video series by renowned YouTube creator Thomas Sanders. By personifying different facets of his own personality, he's able to discuss some more complicated issues that nearly everyone in life experiences in a very relatable and easy to understand way. It all kicked off in late 2016 when he posted a 5-minute video talking about how he wished he knew himself better. In the video, he plays not only himself, but with costume changes and vocal differences. He gives a voice to his logical side, his passionate side, and his morality. In this way, he's able to act out an internal monologue where he muses to himself over questions like, what traits would I like in a romantic partner? Or what kind of good do I want to do in the world? These are very common issues that both adolescents and adults can struggle with on a regular basis, so it seemed apparent that even from the very beginning, he wanted to make this side of his content very accessible. The next handful of videos are similar, lasting about 5 to 6 minutes, and tackle some basic issues like coping with anxiety, or reminding yourself that there is no real schedule to learning how to become an adult. Slowly, the videos start to become more complex and begin discussing things like cognitive distortions and how to find balance in the universal battle between one's heart and one's mind. And as the topics become more complex, so do the characters. As each side of Thomas's personality becomes a more fleshed out character, they expand past their original roles of logic, passion, morality, and anxiety and are given names instead. If I had to guess, I'd say this was probably the point when people started thinking about this as a D.I.D. parallel. The nature of writing ongoing characters in a series like this is that the characters will develop and start showing their own quirks, fears, and goals. Given the characters' growth and complexity over time, in addition to the characters now having their own names, it's very easy to try and draw comparisons to what Thomas Sanders is doing and a representation of D.I.D. I do want to take a moment to point out that Thomas Sanders did specifically say he was in no way trying to represent D.I.D. with his Sanders Sides videos.
And I think that's important to note because a lot of people say personalities.
They're aspects of your one personality.
Of my one personality.
You don't have dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate that he took the time to address this, since I'm sure that many creators probably wouldn't have even taken that consideration into account in the first place. Despite this though, the question keeps rolling in. Do I think that Sanders Sides is a good representation of D.I.D.? Before I answer, let's analyze things a little bit closer from both points of view. What similarities could I draw between Sanders Sides and a person with D.I.D.? Because Thomas has chosen to represent parts of his own personality as individual characters, these individual characters have, as I said earlier, developed personalities of their own in a way. Logan is logical and analytical, but he is also insecure and wants to be considered cool by the rest of the sides. Patton isn't just morality, he is also simultaneously a paternal and childlike figure that really just embodies the heart as a whole. Roman is passion, but he also struggles with pride and stubbornness, and is the last of the sides to be willing to work as a team. And finally, perhaps the side that behaves most like an actual alter is Virgil. Virgil, the embodiment of anxiety, is easily the most complex character in these videos. While in the beginning he was portrayed as just a bully and something to tune out, he was later developed into a sympathetic and troubled character who's just trying to protect Thomas in the only way he knows how. He makes Thomas afraid of things because he is also afraid of those things and doesn't want Thomas to get hurt. hurt. It wasn't until all the sides got to know Virgil, validated him, and worked to redirect his flawed attempts at protection that the group finally started to work together smoothly as a team. This is the one solid parallel that I would acknowledge as being a good representation of an aspect of D.I.D. To me, it kind of became an unintentional guide on how to handle a persecutor-protector. Though they may seem like bad guys at first, persecutor-protectors are, well, protectors. They're just using outdated methods of protection because of their limited understanding of the world outside of trauma. It isn't till the system is able to provide love and understanding to these alters that they find their troubles surrounding them begin to decrease. Persecutor protectors need just as much care and reassurance, if not more, as any other alter in the system. Outside of that, though, I don't believe that Sanders' Sides is a good representation of D.I.D. And for the most part, I don't think audiences as a whole should try to view it that way. Here's why. The Sanders' Sides series is an extremely clever way to present solutions to the more complex emotional battles that nearly everyone experiences in life. These videos tackle some really heavy topics, like if lying can be moral sometimes, or the dangers of becoming too nostalgic. They build on the works of famous philosophers and psychologists, and yet can be understood on an elementary school level. The biggest topic that these videos have tackled yet is in its newest video entitled Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts. Here we meet Roman's twin, Remus. Both of these characters are representations of creativity, but Remus is the creativity that most of us try to suppress. He's the creative part of self that makes us feel uncomfortable, and is the part of us responsible for intrusive thoughts. For those who are unfamiliar with what an intrusive thought is, it's an unwanted thought or image that pops up in one's mind and causes distress. Most people will experience intrusive thoughts at least once in their life, just like most people will experience dissociation at least one point in their life. However, just like dissociation, if intrusive thoughts become regular enough, they can start interrupting the flow of normal life and be considered a disorder, the most extreme of which on this spectrum being OCD. Depending on the content of these intrusive thoughts, the person experiencing them may wonder if having these thoughts makes them an inherently bad person. The video presented by Thomas explains that these thoughts, no matter how terrible, do not define us as people, and even offers coping skills for managing them when they become too distressing. Before the video was released, Thomas posted on Twitter that he was really nervous about how this topic would be received, since it is such a heavy topic. From someone who's struggled with intrusive thoughts in the past, I think he hit it out of the park. Could Remus, with his seemingly twisted and irredeemable role, be considered alter-like? Sure, I suppose. Most of my intrusive thoughts in the past came from my alter Karen, back when she was Monster. While Monster never acted on his ideas, when we were in times of stress, he would fantasize about the most violent responses to our situation. Through love, patience, and kindness, Monster turned into Karen and let go of her violent fantasies. Since Remus is a brand new character, it's impossible to say what kind of development he'll receive in the future. That being said, I don't want him to change. I'd be disappointed if Remus got some kind of redemption arc. Why? Because he's not an alter. He's a side of Thomas's personality. And as an extension of that, he represents a part of everyone's personality. And that's very important. Humans are complex. Behind every action that we take or don't take, there's an internal battle of thoughts and emotions and instincts that guide us down that path. No one, not one of us, is purely good or purely bad. We all have things about us that drive us to behave in toxic ways or inspire us to help those around us. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's on accident. Sometimes we do something with the intent of doing good, but it ends up having harmful consequences that we didn't anticipate. Life is complicated, and that's what these videos are trying to portray. I believe that if the general public tried tries too hard to separate these characters into individual beings rather than pieces of one mind, we might lose sight of the very message that these videos are trying to deliver. Now, I know that there are systems who have found comfort in the Sanders Sides videos because they see parallels there that match with their own life as a multiple, and that's fantastic and valid. I don't want to discount that in any way. I also understand that these characters are really fun, and making fanfic of them or fan art, especially if you really relate to one of the characters more than the other, is fun, and that's great. I don't want to discourage that either. I just want to encourage people to look past the fun characters and the silly jokes and remember that these videos are meant to comfort us and inspire us and give us guidance that we may not otherwise receive from mentors in our life. By dipping too much into the D.I.D. parallels, we risk devaluing the reason that these videos were made in the first place. And if you can't tell by what I've already said, I'm a huge Sanders Sides fan. I get excited anytime that there's an announcement that a new video has been posted. I love, love, love this creative project. I just don't think it should be compared to D.I.D. I hope that this answered questions on where I stand on this topic, but I'm curious what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree? And why? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, remember, you are loved, you are valuable, and you are valid. Have a great day. Bye!